at this time, I'd like to bring up Tim Jedrek from Rudder Marketing.
Thanks, Brian, for introducing me. My name is Tim. I'm with Rudder Marketing. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here to talk to you guys, the flight school owners, leaders in the aviation industry, and also really to kind of open up and headline for the most infamous John and Martha King. So right after me is like is them speaking right away. So where's this thing here? Next. Oh, there you go. Okay. So my talk's really quick. It's not a whole hour long. It's about 30 minutes or so. But we're going to go over, what is Rudder? What is Rudder Marketing? What do we do? Then really the point of me kind of speaking to you guys is not so much talk about myself and our company, but more so how can we help you guys as flight school owners? How can we help you generate more revenue, find more students to work with? And we're going to go over some marketing tips, things that we do here in our agency, and also some sales tips that you can use and take away. And then finally, we'll get over to the door prize giveaway. All right, so a bit about Rudder Marketing. We are a digital marketing agency. We're focused for flight schools. So our mission is to help 100 flight schools double their student body and dominate their service area by 2025. So we're relatively new. We started earlier this year. We're about a little less than 10% of our goal there, and I think we're really on track to get that. Where do I point this thing at? There you go, point it there. So what Rudder Marketing does is implement what's called the Flight School Marketing System, the FSMS, FSMS. And really, these key components are what really drives people to come to your school, people to be interested in your school, to generate that kind of hype, and hopefully increase their student enrollment. And we're going to dive through each one of these. These are some of the marketing tips that we talk about. But really, if you look around the airplane here, you have your different control surfaces. So you have your flight school website. You have ranking high on organic search. That's like SEO, also known as search engine optimization. You have pay-per-click advertising, that's your Facebook ads, Google ads. Then you have growing your 5-star reviews, that's reputation management. And lastly, it's the sales part. It's converting your prospects, your leads, into actual students that come back to your school and train. So really when it comes down to the flight school marketing system, there's really 3 parts to it that you got to think about, and it's really for all businesses. It's getting people to come to your website. It's getting people that come to your website to give them your contact information, so getting the leads, right? So they come to your website, they go to your social media profile, and they contact you. That's the real main point, is they contact you and you get more leads. And finally, once you get those leads, it's converting them into students. All right, so let's dive through each one let's dive through each one and see what we can do here. So marketing tips, let's talk about the website. So I'm sure most everyone has a website out there. It's really easy to get a website. And what really makes a great website from other websites is a few things, which we'll kind of dive into here. So to get a website, there's WordPress, you have Wix, Squarespace. You can also code it out, individually line by line with programming. And it's really easy to get it out there, but what I want to focus on really is the top part of the website. When people kind of click onto your business, when people click onto your flight school, that's known as the header or the one-liner. And really defining that spot is kind of the key area where when they see your website, they make like 80% of like their thought process is already, their judgment of your school has already been made based on the first page they see. So we call that in marketing above the fold. When you think about newspapers, when you see the front page, that's really what we're referring to. So usually what I like to see there is smiling faces and also a one-liner. And a lot of times they focus on planes and stuff, but really you should be focused more so on guiding your visitors, your future student pilots on what to do. So the next part of the website is the direction of where you're taking your website, where you're taking your visitor, and that's really directing them and educating them on how to become a pilot. Because kind of like that video of the car, that we had earlier, and they come to this, FBO, they come to your website, they don't really know anything about flight training. It's a really scary place. They're very excited to start, but they don't really know how to start. So that's the point of your website, is to educate your visitors to what they need to do. And what do they need to do? They need to have what's called a call to action. So call to action is a button or a form or some type of thing where your visitors go to your place and then they give them the contact information. So a lot of times, flight school websites, they say, here's our page, here's our business, here's our instructors, here's our planes, here's our curriculum, and that's it. They don't really do anything afterwards. What we like to focus on here at Rudder Marketing, and what my tips are for you really, is to have a call to action where people that go to your website, they know exactly what the next step is. Hey, if I enter my information into this form, someone from the flight school will contact me and I can start training today or tomorrow or next week. You have kind of that guidance that's offered. So it's not just one form. You want to have different call to actions. That could be, enrollment form, a quiz, a contact us. I've seen, rental checkouts. Different types of forms have to be embedded into your website in order for them to have multiple opportunities to reach out to you. So multiple forms, multiple CTAs, call to actions. And the next one is really multiple ways to contact you. So having your phone number on top of your website, having your email on there, having a chat button, for example, on the bottom right of your website, are all great ideas for visitors to understand how to contact you. And really, you want to just have so many options where, they're, I don't want to say bombarded, but they have a way to get to you, right? All right. And the last one here, so we talked about the one-liner, the heading, the above the fold. We talked about directing your visitors to what they need to do. You talked about the call to actions, the forms. The last one that I kind of see that needs to be improved upon is screens. So we live in a modern day where people have cell phones, people have tablets. A lot of times when we first design a website, it might look good on your laptop, but it might not look good on a phone. So making sure you design your website, and WordPress has different options for this, to make sure it works on all screens and it loads fast. So those are my tips for websites. Okay, so moving on to the next one here. We have SEO. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. When you look at, if I was to look up San Diego flight schools, there's going to be a certain ranking of flight schools that appear on Google, that appear on Bing or Yahoo. And there's actually a formula, a science to actually get higher. A lot of people think it's just luck. A lot of people think it's chance. But there's really a formula to get your website to rank higher. So there's two aspects of SEO, search engine optimization. You have your on-page SEO and then your off-page SEO. So on-page is like the technical stuff. It's how you develop your code, how WordPress arranges your titles and things like that. And some of the things I want to talk about as far as, most people have a WordPress site. There's different plugins you can use. One of them is called the Yoast SEO plugin. That one allows you to have this interface where you can plug and play your title tags, your H tags, and these are the things that you want to look at to rank high. So title tags, that's kind of going to have your keywords. If you think about, flight schools, you want to make sure you have all your local areas. So if you're in San Diego, maybe Claremont, for example, you might want to have those in your H tags, your title tags, and those are all able and accessible into, your SEO plugin. If you're coding it from scratch, then you just have to put the title tag and put your keywords in there. All right. So another one you have your title tags, H tags, that's your technical stuff. You also have your images. So a lot of times we'll upload a really high quality image or video onto your website. It looks really cool, but unfortunately Google and Facebook, Bing, when they look at that, when you look at your website, they're not going to really want to parse through 10 megabytes worth of pictures. They only really want to see something small. So really optimizing your photos and videos for your website helps you rank higher, because what happens is if you have these high quality images on your website, it loads slow, and Google and all of them will kind of rank you lower. All right, so you have optimizing images, and then last one for on-page SEO is your blog post. So creating content. So a lot of us have just a website, we leave it static out there. Adding, an article. Maybe you hosted the Women in Aviation event at your hangar or your FBO, or maybe you attended, the Keen School Conference. Add that to your website. Add that content to your website. That way, you have more things for search engines to parse through. The bigger your content that you have, the more things that Google and all of them can look through, and they will actually raise you higher. If you have a very bare website, only 1 page or 2 pages, there's not going to be that much. Also, kind of talking about the different areas and locations, think about your local towns and municipalities. Sprinkle those keywords everywhere, and they have separate pages for them. So let's say, for example, we're in San Diego. San Diego flight training is 1 page. Claremont flight training is another page. Have those different pages for different areas. That way you can rank for different keywords. All right. So that's SEO. That's on-page, off-page route. So a lot of things that you think about for off-page SEO involves directory listings. So having your school listed, AOPA, for example, is one. Google Maps is one. Yahoo, Bing, Yelp, all these different directories. The more directories that you're in, the more presence that you have on the internet, the higher your website and your flight school will get ranked. So take a look at the different directory listings that you can list your flight school, different business listings, Chamber of Commerce's, things like that, where you can market and not so much advertise, but show off your school. All right. Last one here is press releases and newswires. So just for a few $100s or for a few hundred, almost $1,000, depends on how much you want to spend, you can actually syndicate your blog posts, your events to different news networks and get published out there too. And those are all different methods that we use and that I'm also letting you guys know that you guys can do yourself to market your school and to have, generate more hype around your flight school. All right, so that's SEO. The next one is called PPC. So I know there's a lot of acronyms here. Us pilots to be love acronyms. So PPC stands for pay per click. So that is your Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram ads. It could be any platform really. So Hulu has them, Reddit has them. There's all these different platforms to advertise. I specialize and I kind of emphasize more so on Google and Facebook. That's where the majority of your customers are going to be at. So some tips for here is to understand your budget. So when you advertise to Google, when you advertise to Facebook, you have to enter a budget in. And my personal, recommendation for flight schools and other owners is to have at least $1,000 or more invested into advertising. So if you don't put more than $1,000 in, you're really not going to have that leverage that Google or Facebook will give you, and it's going to be a waste of money, right? So the next thing I want to talk about too, when you choose to do pay-per-click advertising, there is some type of a science to it. You just can't fill out a form and push it. You have to do what's called testing. So what do you test? You run multiple ads. You run multiple ads on different platforms, and you see which ones perform. And the way you have different ads is you have different variations. Your variations include your location. So you have location targeting. You have your audience targeting. So maybe you're targeting people that were into automotive or into aviation. You want to test different target audiences, and lastly, you want to test out your web copy. So, copy is the way you arrange your text. It's the way you say things. It's the way you arrange your letters. It's the pictures you use, the artwork. You want to use different combinations. Put them in a low budget first, and see which ones has the highest click-through rate. And then from the one that has the highest click-through rate, you actually just scale that up and you invest a majority of your budget into that new ad. And once it starts decreasing, then you have to make a new ad. You have to make a new artwork, a new headline to advertise. So that's really PPC in a nutshell. Oh, one last tip. So one last tip for advertising on Facebook and Google. It's a really great platform to do it. If you have a great website, if you have a great ad, you are going to get more people visiting your school. I mean, it's a science, right? But one last tip I have for ads on Google and Facebook is majority of the time, people will direct those ads to their website, their homepage. And I urge you to actually create a custom page directed for that ad. So let's say you have an ad that says Discovery Flight, for $100, $200. That ad is not going to go to your homepage. Instead, it's going to go to a separate page that you create that's specifically designed for that ad that says, hey, you want to do the Discovery Flight? Here's what that entails. Here's the places you're going to go. Here's how much it costs. Let's get you on the schedule. So that's my tips for ads. Okay, next one here is reputation management. There's a lot of content, right? So I know if it's too much, let me just slow down. Okay, reputation management. That's talking about your reviews. So a lot of us have a decent amount of Google reviews, but we have to actually make a business decision to increase those reviews. So how do we do that? I have 3 main tips to give to you guys for increasing Google reviews. So one, ask. Ask to get the review. If you don't ask your customers, if you don't ask your students to give you a review, they're not going to do it. And then when do you ask? So this is the second tip. So I recommend asking your customers and students after a discovery flight. I recommend asking your customers and students to leave a review after a check ride. Probably that's the most powerful review you're going to get is after a check ride. Let's say they passed a private, they passed their instrument, or they soloed even. Their emotions are going to be really high. They're going to be really excited about your school. They're going to be really excited about, hey, I just got my private. And they're going to leave this really great review. And the last one, as far as different ways to ask for review, is a pilot store. So if you have a pilot store, you offer, let's say a knee board or books and stuff like that, offer a 5% discount for a good review. So those are my tips for marketing. Obviously, there's so much more to marketing than just this, but I wanted to give away some tips to you guys that you can take away and implement on your own. There you go. So my headline for this is the best flight school is the best known flight school. So you might have the best planes, you might have the best instructors, but if you want to have the best flight school, the best business, it's actually the best known flight school. All right. Next one, let's go over sales. So sales is, unfortunately, I don't have too much power over your sales process, but I can actually kind of give you some tips for doing sales. So a lot of times we think about when our flight school, they come, they sign up, and then they go, right? And unless we actually document a process for how the onboarding, how that works, we're not going to have good student retention. We're not going to have that conversion from a prospect to a recurring client, right? Recurring student. So your staff, let's start with the staff, right? So depending on how big your flight school is, you might have different layers of staff that kind of talks to a prospective student pilot. So if you're, let's say, I'm a CFI, I have one plane, it's just me by myself, then I'm doing the sales, I'm doing the operations, I'm doing the CFI stuff, and it's just me. Now, the bigger you get, you might get someone that works the front desk, right? You might have the front desk person, they do the dispatching, they do the line, they'll answer the phone calls for you, and that might be the person doing their sales. Then as you get really big, then you might have a separate sales department that you actually do it. But what I want to actually talk about here is what we kind of overlook is our CFIs are actually the #1 sales person that you guys have, because they're doing the discovery flight, they're the one talking to the prospect, and they're the product of your school, right? The flight training is the product. CFIs are the delivery mechanism. They have to be trained on sales. So most of us, when you do our pilot training, we want to go to the airlines or all that stuff, we don't really think about sales. We're not really thinking about how to do this, and it's actually a science. There's different mechanisms we have to put in place to teach our CFIs to do that. So I want to get into the 3 M's here. So the 3 M's for any sales, this is some sales tips for you guys that I want you guys to pass on to your CFIs. First one is the mood, the morale, and the mindset. So if your CFIs don't have a good mood, if they're grumpy, or it's bad weather and they're like, oh no, I don't get to fly today, then I gotta do discovery flight, I gotta fly on this. If they have a bad mood, they're not really gonna bring to the table the best performance and get that conversion for you, right? So really I wanna focus on those 3 M's and understand that the mood, the moral, and the mindset are so important in sales. Because really when it comes down to it, when you think about sales, it's really an emotional process. When your students or your leads and your prospects kind of go there, they're already excited to fly, right? They're already excited to get involved in aviation. And it's really the job of your CFIs, your front desk, to kind of close. It's their job to close. So the last M here is mindset, right? It's the mindset that we believe that when these student pilots, with these prospective pilots, when they do the discovery flight, they already want to do business with us. It's having that abundance mindset, understanding that our school's the best, and we're convinced that way that transfers to our prospective student pilot. If we don't have that mindset in place, if we don't believe that deep heart, and maybe you as the founder, you as the CEO of the flight school has that, but if your CFI doesn't have that mindset, then it's not going to work, right? So you have to have that training for that CFI to understand sales. All right, your sales process, we kind of got into that already. So have standard operating procedures, SOPs, right? Have those procedures in place. I'm not talking about the pre-flight checklist. I'm talking about the sales checklist. Do you have different stages defined when you have a lead? So are they prospective? Did they get documents? Did they do the discovery flight? Did you give them the marketing material, the guides, the syllabus? Have these things outlined and documented. That way it actually gets done and it's scalable. So you have this system of converting discovery flights into pilots. Document that, and then when you hire more people, when you hire new CFIs, you can give them this template and say, here, this is what we work with. This is how our school operates, and this is how we run. So really define those stages. And the last one I'll talk about here for your sales process is onboarding. So onboarding is a very big part of sales. The first week or so, first few days after a student pilot or a visitor as a discovery flight, and they said, yes, I'm going to train your school, that first week they get buyer's remorse. So they say, oh, this other school has this plane, or oh, this CFI over here looks cooler. You really want to eliminate that buyer's remorse by having a really great onboarding process. So how do we do that? Hangar tours, meeting the CFIs, meeting the other team members, a welcome bag or a welcome basket. Maybe give them boggles or something. I don't know. Give them some giveaways that really have your flight school branded material. Give it to your new students. That way they feel that you care about them. And that's the biggest part, really, is you want to make sure during the onboarding process that you as a flight school, and then them as a student pilot at your flight school, that they feel that they are cared for, that you have their attention, and that you're really invested into their success. Okay, so that's the sales process. I want to talk about retention here, right? So retention, so student retention and churn. So churn is a sales term, and they're basically the inverse of each other, right? So retention is how many customers, how many students you have, and churn is how many people leave, right? So the first tip I have here is to set goals. So I don't know, everyone runs their business independently, has their own system in here. But what I recommend is at least once a month, you develop what are called KPIs, another acronym, right? KPIs are key performance indicators. What you do is you track, and you meet, your management team, you meet how many new students you have, how many total students you have, and how many students have left. You also add different KPIs like your revenue and marketing budget, all that stuff. But for the sales aspect and the churn, you want to make sure you put a number as far as how much retention you have or how much churn you have. So first off is set your goals. That's the number one tip. Set your goals, set the KPIs, have the meetings with your management team, with the CFIs, and review these numbers with your team. If everyone's on the same page, it's going to go great, right? So that's the goals here. Second one is communication rhythm. How do we reduce churn? Is we want to make sure we have consistent communication with our students, with our customers, whether it's a newsletter Whether, on their birthday, do you send them a small email or a video saying, hey, happy birthday, I'm glad you're training here. You want to have as many communication opportunities with your student pilot. That way they are convinced and they know that you really care about their success and their aviation goals. The last one, let's say you do have someone that churns out. Someone says, okay, they go MIA, they kind of go missing. They've been flying at your school for a few months, now they're gone. A lot of times flight schools will just ignore it. They'll say, oh, he's gone. Make sure you follow up. Make sure you send an email. Make sure you give them a call saying, hey, do you want to get on the schedule? And if they say, no, I'm done flight training with you guys, get that feedback. Get that feedback. That way you can continuously improve your business. At the end of the day, this is a business, right? And use that feedback to improve your business and eventually, hopefully, get more students in the future. So those are my tips for sales. Use systemized process to scale. So kind of what I was talking about, SOPs, stage checks, all that stuff. If you don't have these things documented, we help with that. We help develop that stuff with you guys. But really the best flight schools out there have these systems in place already. All right. So here, just want to say thank you again. So this pretty much ends my presentation here. If you need digital marketing, if you need some consultation services here, we are digital marketing for flight schools, for aviation industry. We are the digital marketing agency for you guys, and we're really here for you guys to help bring more people into aviation. So more Rudder.